I got a comment from one of my viewers asking how to make a square pattern plant pot. And honestly, it's a great idea. So let's build one together. So here we are in Fusion 360. I'm going to start by creating a sketch on the top plane. And I'm going to be creating a square. So let's make a square of 90 millimeters by 90 millimeters. And say finish sketch. Now with this square, I want to double click on the line and go to create a form and create an extrude. And this extrude is going to be 90 millimeters again. So we're going to make a cube basically. But I want to create another face on this cube. So I'm going to click 2, say OK. Now with this one, I want to double click the middle of the two faces and modify it. I want to make it a bit bigger just to give it a little bit of a interesting shape to this plant pot. Okay. Now let's finish form. And at the moment, my body is just shell. So I want to create a closed body. So I'm gonna go to surface, select patch. I'm gonna click on one of these edges to patch the bottom and click one of these edges to patch the top. Okay. Now one more thing we need to do to create a solid body is we need to connect these three sections, because at the moment they're not connected. So we're gonna just select everything, make sure everything is selected, go back to surface and stitch everything. Say OK, and now you see we have a solid body. Now I want to create a copy of this body, which I'm gonna use to create the pattern from. So I'm simply gonna copy this body, say Ctrl C and Ctrl V, and say OK. Now I have two bodies exactly the same size and exactly the same shape in exactly the same position. I want to rename these bodies so I know which one is which. And I'm going to rename them as pattern. And I want to rename this one as pot. So this is going to be the one that's going to create, I'm going to create the pattern from, and this is going to be the one that's going to be the pot where I plant my plants. Okay, so let's hide the pot at the moment. And what I want to do is take the pattern body and scale it up a little bit. And I want to choose the scale point, the origin of the whole design. So I'm going to go from 0 and I'm going to say scale factor by 1.1. Okay, enter, and that's going to give me the same shape, and I have two bodies, one bigger, one smaller. So if we look at the selection analysis, I always use this because it's such a cool way to see inside of things. So I'm just going to go to selection analysis. I'm going to look at this plane. Okay, so that gives me all of this. So you see at the moment I have the bigger shape, which is the pattern one, and I have the smaller one, which is the pot. Okay, so one thing I want to do now is hide the pattern one and then go to the top of this and extrude by, let's say, 20 mil. Okay, there we go. And as you can see now, I have a cut on the top of this that gives me a clear cut at the end when I'm going to cut all the patterns out. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. Right, so I'm finished with the pot for the moment, so I'm going to just hide it. And I just want to work on the pattern. So onto this pattern, I'm going to hide this as well. And I want to create on this plane, on one of these planes, doesn't matter which one, choose one, and I want to create a sketch. Now, on this sketch, I'm simply going to create a line that goes from, let's say, somewhere here, as long as it passes the x-axis, it's fine, and I want to make it somewhere about 100 mil high. Okay, so with this line, I'm simply going to offset it by 2 millimeters, and I want to close it to create profile. There we go. So now I have a profile that's right in the middle of, in the center of this, and I want to extrude this profile, let's say 100 mil. Okay, and let's call this a rib, so we know what we're talking about. So now I want my rib to go higher than the pattern, the top of the pattern. So I'm simply going to select the top of the rib, and it's going to say pull, and I'm going to go just a bit higher and say OK. There we go. So now I can use this rib to make a lot of cuts into this pattern body. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to select the rib, and this is where your computer power makes a difference. If your computer is not strong enough, it's going to take a while to calculate all the patterns, because we're going to do a lot of them. So in my case, I want to create a pattern, and I'm going to choose a circular pattern, and the axis, I'm going to choose the Z axis. Now by default it's going to give me 3, but 3 is just not enough, so I'm going to go somewhere about 55. Okay, that gives me a whole bunch of them all the way around that body of mine. Okay, so now if I say OK, that's going to give me a lot of ribs. So I'm going to have the first one which I created and all of these other ones following. Now I have a lot of ribs here, and I want to be able to work with them easier, to make them visible and invisible quicker. I'm simply going to create a new group, and I'm going to call this group ribs. And I want to select all my ribs from this list, holding Shift, and I'm going to move them all into this folder. Now I can simply hide them as I need to, all of them at the same time. So let's create the pattern which we were talking about. I'm gonna select my body, and I'm gonna go to combine, and in my case I want operations to be cut. My target body is gonna be the body I just selected, which is the pattern, and my tool bodies, I can click here, select, and I want to select all of them. And this is where your computer makes a difference. Quick word while this is loading: if you like this type of videos, just give me a like and subscribe, and I will do my best to make some more videos like this. And if you have any questions or if you have any requests, just leave them in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer to everyone. Let's get back to designing. And there we go. This is our pattern so far on our plant pot. And what's going to happen now is, if we look at the plant pot we have designed before, first of all I want to make it the same height as this, so I'm going to just click on this top one and just say extrude up to this point and say OK. Now we want to combine everything, So just simply gonna go to combine, target body 1, selected all of the other ones, and say operation join, and say OK. Now we have one object only at the moment, and I think that looks really nice. And the only thing we need to do now is create space where we can pot our plant. So let's do that. Let's create a new sketch, and I want to create it on the top again. And I know my plant pot size is gonna be 90 millimeters. So I'm gonna simply create a square of 85 by 85 mil. Okay, so let's finish sketch, and let's create something very similar to what we've done before, but in this case I want to just make the inside of the plant pot taper down, so when you repot your plant in the future you won't struggle to take it out from the pot. So I'm just going to simply double click onto this, create a form, extrude, and I'm going to extrude by 100. Okay, and I'm going to take the bottom section, I'm going to modify it and make it slightly smaller, so it's going to be tapered. Okay, now if I finish this form, I can go back, do the same thing like I did with the other ones, close the top and the bottom, say OK. If I select everything, I'm going to stitch them and create another body. Now I can use this body to cut a hole into our plant pot. So if I go to the top view and I'm going to look at the orthographic view, I'm going to select this body and move it on top of this one. There we go. Say OK. And with this body, if I look back at the analysis, you see I don't have any space on the bottom. So this one, if I cut now, it won't have any bottom. So I'm just gonna select this body and just move it up a bit. So I want to move it up by 3 mil. That should be fine. Okay. And now I want to cut some out of this. So I'm going to go back to my pattern body. I'm going to combine. And I'm going to select the tool body, this. I'm going to select cut. Okay, and that gives me a nice cut into this. Right, so if I hide the analysis again, there we go, we have a nice looking plant pot, a square one with some patterns on it. Very simple to make, and I think it looks really nice. Now one thing I want to do before I send it to 3D print, I want to create some drain holes on the bottom, and I'm going to simply create a sketch on the bottom of this pot, and in the middle I want to create a 5 mil hole, and I want to create a few more around it. So I'm going to make another 5 mil hole, and I'm going to select this, and I'm going to create a circular pattern with a center point here, and I'm going to say 6. Okay, now if I finish sketch, I can simply select everything, and I can extrude everything down, and that's going to cut some holes into the bottom of my plant pot. That's going to give some drainage so you don't drown your plants. Okay, I'm pretty happy with this. I think it looks really nice, and if you like something like this, if you want to design one and you're struggling, just leave me a message on the comment section below and I'll try to help you with anything I can. let's send it to 3D print and see how it looks like. And there it is, guys. It's quite a big pot, this one, and I think it looks really amazing. And yeah, hopefully my subscriber likes it. So a few things I want to do to my pots before I start printing them. One thing, I like to create a pattern on the bottom. Even though nobody sees the bottom, it's just one of those things I really like to do. So I'm gonna go to bottom surface, and instead of monotonic, I'm gonna go to octagram spiral. I want the layer height to be 0.2, and I want my top surface to be concentric. One other setting I want to do to my pots is when I print something, usually I like to print with the walls. Instead of classic, I want to change to Arachne. And that's gonna cut some of the time because the printer changes the thickness of the line when it needs it. So that's gonna make it print a bit faster. Because this is such a big pot, I don't need to have that much infill. So I'm simply gonna go and cut some of the infill out. So I have sparse infill at 15% at the moment. I'm just gonna put it at 5, and I think that should be fine. So with the time lapse activated, I'm gonna go to a total time of 6 hours and 50 minutes. And I'm pretty happy with that for the size of the pot I'm making. And yeah, let's print it and see how it looks like. And that's it, the plant pot is ready. If you have another pattern you'd like to see, leave it in the comment. This is how this one started. And thank you very much for watching my video. Feel free to like and subscribe for more Fusion 360 and 3D printing tutorials. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye!